This is the best Bone Dragon build I have used so far, and I absolutely love farming with this setup. I recently did a video about speedrunning all the dragons with this setup, and it sparked a couple of questions regarding the build. So that is exactly what we will be doing today. We will be going through the build, units, items, promotion, skill tree, everything regarding the build. So that is exactly what you will be seeing today. I've also linked the speedrun video in the description. If you haven't seen it, you really should do so. But let's take a closer look on the build itself. First of all, it's a pretty fast build for the Bone Dragon, which is obviously part of the reason is that my units are very high level. But one of the reasons is also the E lines on this build. So I currently have 20 plus 20 plus 1, so 41 levels on the damage skill level for this build, which gives me 102.5% increased damage instead of the regular plus 50% increased damage that you get from the base 20 levels. I also have a couple of levels in the hero damage skill, so I have 60% instead of 50% in the hero damage. So these are part of the reason that makes farming faster when you're farming dragons or dungeons at any part of the game, if you can access E items, because that's what you will need for them. I will show the items in a bit. My damage results look something like this. Mainly it's Succubus and Town Archers doing most of the damage, and then I have Zeus and Sarah. Sarah could be higher if your kill time is slower than what I have. For example, this would be a pretty better example of what you should probably have on your damage results if your kill time is slower. But sometimes, because my kill time is so fast, Sarah doesn't really have time to do enough damage to be high up on the damage results. But all of these guys are doing boss damage. Bowmaster is also a boss killer. So every unit I have leveled for this build are basically boss killers, which also helps making the build, the kills faster. But the reason Bowmaster is not that high on the damage chart is because I don't really cast her, because my kill time is so fast. You should if you are using this build on lower level. And also I don't really have a proper items. I mean, I do have some sort of items, but my main importance for her is also having damage skill level +1 lines for this. You will see a lot of these lines on this build. So that is the lowest boss damage dealer in this setup. I'm using the Bowmaster promotion, but you should use the Dark Lightning Archer promotion if you are using the Lightning build while farming. So either will work depending on your skill tree. Succubus is the main damage dealer, so the items are like this. These are the same items I use in my waving. The area skill damage on the staff is useless, but otherwise this is what you want. And the op agility for more attack speed, boss targeting, and you will want the right hand side promotion that has the sharpened nails passive critical damage buff. So that's the promotion you want for your Succubus. Then we have Zeus as a damage dealer. These are the items I am running on Zeus. These guys don't really have damage skill level +1 lines because you want to prioritize your boss damage when you're equipping your boss killers mainly. And Zeus uses the left hand side promotion, which is the quick charge promotion. There we go. Then another boss killer is Sarah, who has this boss killing setup. These are different items than what I use for waving, so I have a lot of crit chance and boss damage in here. Could have second rune on there on the bow as well, but these are the Sarah items. And final boss damage dealer or boss killer in this build is Town Archers, who have this kind of items. Also, if you are wondering how to equip items on your Town Archers, I will also link the guide video in the description as well for that. Orb of Power in here. And then we can go through rest of the units. So those guys are responsible of doing damage, and no one else is basically meant to be doing any damage. Chrono is just for the game speed buff. I have double cooldown in here. This could be or should be damage skill level line eventually as well. And in here I have double cooldown with damage skill level +1 line on the accessory. Dark Hunter is here to buff the Town Archer's attack speed. He has hero damage skill and damage skill level +1 lines. And the bow could be also damage skill level +1 line, because when you're using Town Archers, the damage skill level, this one buffs both your heroes and your Town Archers, but the hero damage skill level only buffs your heroes. So basically the damage skill level is a little bit better E-line when you are stacking them. That's why I have more of those than the hero damage skill level lines. I'm kind of hoping these heroes, but I will go through everyone, don't worry. In here I have just damage skill level +1 lines on both items. Nothing else really matters. You could have some cooldown, you could have some skill duration for Dark Skeleton if your kill time is slower, if it takes more time to kill the Bone Dragon than what I have, but I kill it so fast I don't really have to care about that. Then we can go through the upper line. In here actually on Pure Wizard I also have damage skill level +1 line instead of cooldown lines. Like normally you want to have the cooldown lines if your kill time again is slower, if it takes more time than what it takes for me. But since I can do it basically without casting Pure Wizard at all, I don't really need to care about Pure Wizard's cooldown, so I just have damage skill level +1 lines in here. And then on Necromancer, here I actually have disassociated items I use in my Way build, so I have some skill duration so that the debuff is active on the dragon a little bit longer, so that can be applied to make it a little bit faster, killing the Bone Dragon or bosses a little bit more effectively. I have Blue Defender. I wouldn't really need Defender, but I just need basically someone in this slot to hold some damage skill level +1 line. Nothing else matters for Defender. He doesn't really need... Well, he does give me a little bit more defense and HP, sure, but I wouldn't really need him in the build. I just need the damage and hero damage skill level lines. Then I have Assassin, who's responsible for, well, applying the critical damage debuff on the dragon. That makes your kill time faster, but I also have damage skill level +1 lines in here as well. Attack speed line is the only line that really matters for Assassin when you are doing a dragon build. He doesn't need to do anything except than just have as fast normal attack as possible to apply the debuff as often as possible. Could use some attack speed runes in here, sure, as well. That would probably make it a fraction faster, perhaps. But you just want attack speed for Assassin when you are using it in a dragon or a dungeon build, so that you can apply this critical damage debuff as often as possible. Then we have the witches. All of the witches are on poison promotion. It doesn't really matter for this build. But usually you want to use, if you use Dorothy for waving, you just use it on a poison promotion, so you can just have them on poison in here. That doesn't make any difference. They are not even casted even once during this battle, because the only reason, they have two reasons they are in the setup. The first reason is again to hold damage skill level +1 lines. I'm going to show you all the witches. They all have items with damage skill level +1 line. Nothing else matters. They don't need to do anything. They don't do damage, they don't do crowd control, they don't need to do anything except give me a lot of more levels for my damage skill, so that I can again pump my damage dealer levels and damage a little bit higher. And the second reason they are in the build is because of this skill node in the summon tree, which will give you 5% increased damage per witch. So this will, again, for every witch you will get 5% increased damage for your damage dealers, so I will get increased damage for my Succubus, for my Sarah, Zeus and Bowmaster. It doesn't buff Town Archers, unfortunately, but every else damage dealer will get buffed by having the witches in the build. So that's why they are just sitting in the bottom row, looking pretty, and that is the only reason why they are in here. Then finally, we do have Edward, who is on level 10,000, does absolutely 0 damage. As you can see in here, in these results, nothing. I think he even died in here. He did not do any kind of damage in here, in this run. But the reason number one, again, is to have damage skill level +1 lines in here, and hero damage skill level +1 lines in here. Eventually, I want to put this to be damage skill level +1 as well, with a damage reduction line, because I would prefer him to not die during the fight. The second reason is that he gives a 10% attack for the units on the field, and this plus 10% is applied to Sarah. So Sarah will get passive attacks boost just by having Edward in your setup. So that's why Edward, instead of, basically you could otherwise use any other leader, just stack a couple of damage or hero damage skill level lines in here as well. Would work basically the same. And then there's a question that often gets asked, like, why do I not have towers? Why do I not have castle bot? Like, why the stuff is empty? There's 3 reasons for this. The first reason is because my towers are, well, apart from the Death Worm, they are like level 10,000. They do absolutely 0 damage to Bone Dragon. They do absolutely 0% damage for the Bone Dragon, so their damage doesn't make the kill time any faster. The second reason is that they can potentially claim this crit damage debuff away from a higher damage dealer unit. So every time Dark Assassin attacks Bone Dragon, the Bone Dragon will get a debuff that makes it take plus 200% damage on the next critical strike. So optimally, I would like this plus 200% damage to be done by someone who does extremely high damage. So Succubus, Serra, or even Taunarchus, at least they do a lot of damage as well. So I would like this to be done by a damage dealer. So instead, if a tower that deals essentially 0 damage, if it does that critical strike and claims this plus 200% damage buff, it kind of adds nothing. And it can, in the worst case, it can just make your kill time a little bit slower, even in that case. So that's also the reason why the towers are not there, to reduce the amount of non-damage dealing projectiles hitting the dragon during the battle. The real difference is going to be really small. So even if you have your towers, your kill time won't be that much slower, but they don't make it faster anyway, so it just doesn't really make sense to have them currently in here. In the future, maybe if you can stack more damage skill level lines or something like that on them, if you have the tower runes after the update drops, then maybe it makes sense to have them. But right now it doesn't help, and it can potentially make your kill time slower. The third reason, and which I think is the most important reason, is that it just looks better when it's empty. It just looks more clean, and that's the real reason why I don't have them in here. And then I think finally we will take a look at the skill tree. Let's kill one Bone Dragon in here. There we go. And the skill tree, it looks like this. So I'm gonna scroll through it like this. As you can see, I have 16 skill points that are not used, and the reason for that is just nothing would really help me for my setup currently to make it any faster or anything, so they are just not needed. That's why I haven't even put them anymore. The main points in here are the poison tree to boost Succubus, so you will want the Succubus nose, and the full poison tree to boost both Succubus and Serra. And then you want the physical tree. Well, mainly you want the strafe nodes section to boost your Bowmaster or Dark Lightning Archer if you're using Lightning Archer promotion, and Serra. So this is important section as well. You can take this one as well. It will give you +1 arrow if you are not using the strafe. So whenever strafe is on cooldown, then you get +1 arrow. It's just minor boost. But this also helps your Dark Elf in case you need healing. So this build could have Dark Elf. That's why I also have some nodes activated in here. For example, this is the Dark Elf section, which is currently completely useless for me because I don't have her in my build. But in your earlier kills, when you still need the healing, then you will want to have the full physical tree as well if you can. You can easily drop someone from the build to make room for Dark Elf. You could drop Defender, you could drop one Witch, no issues there. So that's an easy way to get some healing for you if you cannot survive with this setup alone. Up here we have the Town Archer section, which we obviously need because Town Archers are one of the damage dealers in this setup. And then in the Ice Tree, you only need the Sword node and this one for Dark Skeleton, so that Dark Skeleton will apply more crit chance for your heroes as well when you cast him. So those are the only two nodes that you need in the Ice Tree. In the Fire Tree, the only thing you need with this setup is the Sword node. 2.5% more damage for everyone. That's just more power. Makes your kill times a little bit faster. In the Summon Tree, you basically only need the Sword node, but also if you have the Witches sitting there looking pretty, then you also want the Witch node as well. So both of these will boost your damage output a little bit further, so that's what you want. And in the Lightning Tree, depending how many lightning units you have, since I do have Zeus, I do have the Zeus nodes and as many lightning damage boosting nodes as I can get. If you have other damage dealers from lightning, then you probably want to have, like if you have Thor in your build, then you want to have the Thor nodes. But since I do not, I use Serra instead, I do not need those, obviously. And you will want the assassin debuff applied one more time node as well. The slash is not required because you are not really casting Dark Assassin. You can cast him, but it's not really required, so you don't really need this node. You really want this debuff applied one more time. This is the more important node from the Dark Assassin nodes over here. The leader nodes are in here to make sure leaders don't die. The leads nodes and just leader damage. You can ignore the leads nodes if your leaders do not die during the fight. And what else? You want the staff node for your succubus, and you want the bow node for bowmaster, Sarah, and you want the hammer node for your Zeus. So that's basically it. But you can easily run this with much less skill points as well. Just drop the trees where you only need the sword nodes, and you will have this build running with much less skill points than this. So that's how my build currently runs, and I absolutely, like I said, I love farming with this setup because it's just so convenient. And my plan is eventually to hit 1 million defense for the Bone Dragon, so we shall keep on going and see how long that will take. And after I hit 1 million, I will definitely do a showcase of showing all items I have on my account, like what you can expect for doing that much defense. But we still have some way to go before we hit that 1 million, so be sure to tune in any future live streams regarding the Bone Dragon farming as well. I would love to see you in there. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, you know the drill. Leave a comment down below. I will do my best to give you an answer. And hope you have a great day. See you next time. Bye. Bye.